Hi, I'm Carly and welcome to this training module on grocery store promotions. So all things related to the sales and specials that you will run inside your store. So this module has one supporting document that goes along with it, the promotions concepts document, and that document was created to stand by itself as a resource for you. So if you want to jump straight there, by all means, go ahead and do that. However, the rest of this video will take that document line by line and kind of fill in all the gaps and tie all the pieces together. So that's what we will do for the rest of this video. Through the promotions concepts document, there are 4 categories that we'll go through: the warehouse data feed, batch process by type for both the POS process and the shelf tag process. We'll talk all about the ad flyer and how that works, and then we'll also touch at the end on outdated inventory and how to make the best use of that. So we'll get started with the warehouse data feed, and this is an automated process of exchanging information with your grocery warehouse. So they can send you information for your POS to update based on what they're changing on their side. And there's also a way that limited information can be sent from your store back to the warehouse if needed. So there are some things that we'll get into when we talk about the ad flyer where they have to collect information from your store in order for you to qualify for certain sales and discounts. So that process is automatic and is set up by your POS vendor and your warehouse IT department. So you personally don't have to do that to integrate the two systems together. Your only action required is to make absolutely 100% sure that the POS that you purchase is compatible with creating that data integration with your warehouse. So if your POS is incompatible with your grocery warehouse and the two can't talk to each other, then do not buy that POS system. That is not a suitable POS system for your store. So then on a weekly basis, your incoming data from your warehouse will drop a few batches in your POS back office system, and each of those batches will have a different set of steps required for what you need to do to make sure that everything is handled to do with those changes. And so that's this next section of going through each of the different kinds of batches and talking about the POS deploying those changes so that the cash register is reflecting the new prices or the new items or anything like that, compared to the shelf tags so that what the customer sees on the shelf while they're shopping matches what they're actually going to be charged at the register. Big no-no to have your shelf price reflect a different price than what will be scanned at the register, especially if the shelf price is cheaper. So if the shelf price is $2 and then you charge them $3 when they get to the register, if state weights and measures catching you do that, that is a ding on your business, and they don't let you have very many of those before you're not allowed to have your state business license anymore. So before we get into each of the different batches and their processes around the POS and the tags, I wanted to touch on very briefly how you're going to get your tags. There's 2 different ways. So either your warehouse is going to send you truck mail, like on one of your grocery deliveries each week, there's a packet of all the tags and all the different things that you'll need, and that's really handy. However, the downside to truck mail is that if your warehouse is inconsistent even a little bit with their truck mail, and you're not getting the tags into the store, as you'll see in these next sections, that's going to hold you up from deploying those batches in the store. So now you're operating on out-of-date information. Maybe you're losing money. So that is not a great solution if your warehouse's truck mail is at all inconsistent. So if you run into that situation, which is what happened to us, we used truck mail at the beginning. It wasn't reliable enough to keep our POS up to date in a timely fashion. So we opted to go ahead and invest in Pangea. And I'm guessing that there are other systems out there similar to Pangea. Pangea is the service that our warehouse recommended to us that they integrate with all of their different stores. So depending on your warehouse, maybe they have a particular tag printing system that they can recommend to you. But Pangea is the one I'm most familiar with, and I'm guessing they all work about the same concept of basically when you sign up with Pangea, you buy the the printer, or you lease the printer, I believe, and it's a very low upfront cost, couple $100, and then really the cost of this is in buying the pages of tag stock. So the pages that you're actually going to print the tag information onto. So you're paying per page of tags that you're printing, essentially. So it's very handy, I think, as far as it was one of those things where when you're looking at getting open and you're evaluating your to-do list, we wanted Pangea before we opened the store. We ended up getting Pangea about 4 to 6 months after we opened, just because there were so many other things that took priority. So it was definitely one that came later and made life so much easier when we actually did go ahead and get it. So it sounds like printing them yourself is more of a headache, and actually it's less, because you can now coordinate every single piece of the process and it seems to be a lot more efficient. So if you're using Pangea, if you're set up with that, that means that the batches that your weekly data feed from your warehouse, the batches that they're sending to you in your POS, those batches are also landing in Pangea. So Pangea has a software that you log into online and an interface that lets you see here all of the different batches of tags that the warehouse has sent to you. And from there, you can actually edit each batch to deselect particular tags that maybe you don't want to print that page, or whatever the case is. And so you can edit the batch in any way that you need to, and then click print. And from there, you just have to make sure that you've loaded the right tag stock into the printer, and out pop your tags. So the nice thing about Pangea is that it communicates, the printer itself communicates back to Pangea, the business, and tells it when we're getting low on each color of ink, when the toner is low, and as the printer is running out in real time, the message is sent and they ship a new color cartridge or toner cartridge, whatever the case is. So it just shows up in the mail. So it's so convenient. I think so, especially where in a grocery store, you got a lot to manage, a lot of details going on. This is one of those places where it is actually really nice to outsource that whole piece to Pangea, and all you have to do is make sure you've ordered the card stock that you're needing in any given time. A good example of when you might not print a particular page, we don't print the discontinued items tags. That's a page of red tags that you can put onto the price tag on the shelf, just to note that this is discontinued, it's not coming back, whatever the case is. We don't print those, we don't hang them, we order the item until the gun doesn't let you order it anymore, because there's a natural stop in that process already, where if you beep it and the warehouse has discontinued it and they don't have any more, it'll tell you item not found. So at that point, we pull the whole tag down and we don't even bother buying the pages and printing and spending the time hanging the discontinued items tags. Also, after any truck where you've ordered new items into your store, Pangea will have a batch the day after that with the new item tags so that you can print those off. So again, very handy to have them looking out for you like that. The alternative, if you're getting your tags through truck mail, let's say you get a new item on your Monday truck and your truck mail doesn't come until Thursday, or maybe your truck mail comes on Thursday and you got a new item on the Thursday truck. That means the new item tag is in the next Thursday's truck mail, if you get the truck mail. So there can be delays even if your truck mail's coming on schedule, that makes it the less convenient option. So now that we know that we have options for where our tags are going to come from, next we'll talk through each of the different kinds of batches and what that process of deploying the batch and the shelf tags and all of that integrates to create a unique process for each kind of batch. So we'll go through all the batches and then talk about the add flyer batch when we get to the next section. So the first kind of batch is a price or info change. Now, to get this batch, you personally don't have to do anything, because these changes are coming out of the warehouse, most likely even a step back in the supply chain, like the supplier, the manufacturer of the product, raised their price. And so now that warehouse had to pay a higher cost, so now they're raising our cost and we need to raise the price price on the shelf for the customer. So it's trickled all the way down, and we're just the last step of that. So you could get a batch like that every single week, even if you don't ever change your items, you aren't making any changes inside the store yourself, and yet there will still be changes that need to happen that are coming from further up the supply chain. So these ones are very important to deploy the batch and hang the tags all at the same time. So obviously, if you're only one person, that's impossible. I would say, depending on if it's a price increase or decrease, is going to tell you, do you want to hang the tag first or deploy the batch first? And depending on how many you have to do, if it's one, it's like hang the tag, go deploy the batch. If you have 30 tags to hang, there is a reasonable doubt that there may be a customer who sees the new tag before the price is active in the register. So like we said, it's a big no-no to have the shelf tag be lower than what they're going to see at the register. If it's in their favor, let's say the price on the shelf says $4.50 and the price in the register is $3.50, so they got off cheaper than they thought they were going to, that's not nearly as offensive as if you're going to charge a higher price when they get to the register. So that's where I say, like, if these are all price increases that you're seeing, I would hang all the tags and then go deploy the batch. If their price decreases, where the price is going to go down, I would deploy the batch first and then I would hang the tags. So use your discretion. Almost always the price changes are going to be increases. So, keep that in mind. And then the info changes, these again come out of mostly the manufacturer themselves, where they may change it from a 10.7 ounce unit size to a 10.2 ounce unit size. And now there's a new UPC, there's a new order code for when you order this from the warehouse, maybe even a new name. So those kinds of info changes can also generate a new shelf tag that needs to be hung. In that case though, with the info changes, it's a lot less important the order that you hang the tag and deploy the batch, just because you're not affecting the price that they're going to see at the register compared to the shelf. All of that is staying the same. So there's no risk of breaking any rules with that one. The cost changes batch doesn't have a tag change associated with it unless the cost change has also driven a price change, in which case the price change will have a tag associated with it. So that'll take care of that one. So with the cost changes, you can always just deploy those as soon as you see them. And what that's doing is updating the cost in the item table so that when you look at the price that you're charging, it is factoring in a profit margin and showing you what that is. So then if you're running any reports tracking the profit margin on your item set, you have an up-to-date cost in the system. The next batch is TPRs, or temporary price reductions. So these are very easy sales to incorporate into your store, and it's true what they say as far as sale items sell. So when people see a sale tag, when they see that this is a reduced price, their attention automatically goes to that item and they would consider it more than if it was full price, normal price, whatever. Even if you were to lift up that sale tag, it's like a discount of 10 cents, 15 cents, they are still more likely to buy it because it has a sale tag hanging on it. So there are different sale tags that you can run from your warehouse. They have lots of different options, and I'm guessing a lot of this depends on your warehouse. Some of it's probably a lot the same, but these temporary price reductions represent basically the sales that the warehouse is running. So just like you in the store would run manager specials, if you, let's say they mispicked and they gave you an extra case of bacon and now you have all this bacon. So you're gonna run a manager special to move all this quantity before it expires. And the warehouse is doing the same thing. So they're sitting there seasonally looking at expiration dates and what's seasonal and how can we put strategic sales on the inventory that we have to move it as best as we can. So they're putting sales on their inventory and passing them on to you as TPRs. So these sales most of the time are things that like you're getting this discount no matter what. If you order this item, it is on TPR with the warehouse, so you are receiving a discount, which is only widening your profit margin if you keep your price the same. So there's really no hurting to run these sales. Like, there's no reason not to. These sales, it really just depends from item to item and time to time how long the sales last. These are typically longer sales than the weekly ad flyer that rotates every week. These would last for a few weeks all the way up to a few months. Again, it really depends on how big is the pile of backstock sitting in the warehouse and what are they trying to move and how long does it take to move it. So that's where it's kind of unpredictable, but the tag itself will always have printed on it the beginning date of the sale and the end date of the sale. And those dates will correspond to that TPR being turned on and turned off with the TPR batch that's coming through the POS, through the data feed from the warehouse. So when it's the week that it starts, it'll be in the TPR batch, and when it programs it into your POS, it'll again carry the start and the end date. So when the end date comes, you deploy changes and all of those TPRs that are now past date will turn off. So with these tags, we have two different processes for the tags that are expiring and the tags that are getting started. So the sales that are over, those tags need to be taken down on their expiration date, and because the price is going to change in the register, and that means that you're at risk of you have a sale tag hanging on the shelf and the price at the register is full price. So in that case, if we miss, like at my store, if we miss taking down a TPR tag because it expired and we overlooked this one or whatever, and it didn't come down, and now the customer is saying, hey, that's scanning for $7.49 and on the shelf it says $4.49, so what's up? And then you go to the shelf and you see, I see we did not take down this TPR tag. You can see that it is expired, but that's on us because we left it up, and I take off the full price item and I sell it to her at the reduced price that she saw on the shelf, because that's our job, is to communicate the price on the shelf. So we usually honor the shelf price, whatever it is, and then we immediately take down that tag so that nobody else is under the false impression that this is a cheaper than it is item. So that's really important, that like on the end date that they come down. So you can check with your warehouse if it's different, but like all of our TPRs end on Mondays. So every Monday we take down all the expiring TPR tags. And then kind of in a whole separate process for the TPRs that are starting, that process is very much under your control as far as the sales don't go live in the register until you deploy the batch, and the tag getting hung up is also under your control along with when you deploy the batch. So let's say Monday's a truck day, and you're not trying to hang up a bunch of new sale tags on the same day that you're trying to put truck away. So you just accept that even though the sales say that they start on Monday, we're just always gonna hang them up on Tuesday. And we choose to go ahead and deploy the batch ahead of time, again, because it's gonna create that situation where the shelf price shows more expensive than what they're gonna end up seeing at the register. And we do that for scans, which we're gonna get into scans in the ad flyer section. But that way we're taking part in the sale as soon as it starts, even though we know we're not gonna hang up the tag until the following day. So if you have a tolerance for doing that, then you can separate, deploy the sales so that they're live for the customers, even though they won't know when they actually select that product that it is on sale, and hang the tags as soon as you can. If you'd rather not do that, that's no problem. You just then would wait to deploy that batch in the system until you're able to hang the tags. So in that case, I would go through and deploy the batch as soon as you're ready to hang the tags, again, because we're in that situation where we're lowering the price for the customer compared to what they see on the shelf, and that's okay, relative, as long as you're in the process of working on correcting it. That's like a weights and measures standard from your state board of weights and measures. So the next batch is new items, and this batch may be somewhat irrelevant depending on how you choose to handle this in your store. So let's theoretically go with our first option, which is to use this batch. It's on a delay. Again, because your weekly data feed is only coming once a week. So if your new item comes on your Monday truck, that isn't going to be available to deploy into your POS and your register until Friday, let's say, if that's when your data feed comes. So that's 4 days that your new item isn't in your system. So that's inconvenient, even though Pangea is gonna, if you're using Pangea or a system like it, is gonna send you that tag batch the following day. So in that example, you'd have the tag on Tuesday, but nothing to deploy into the POS till Friday. So that's not a great solution, especially for something that is perishable. Let's say it's new strawberries. And your shelf is empty. Like, you don't want to wait until Friday to be able to put those product out. You want to be able to put it out right now, but if you do, it's not going to scan at the register unless you enter it into your system manually. So using your invoice and keying the item in manually so that it will scan at the register, and then the following day Pangea would have your tag for you, and then on Friday when your new item batch came, you could open it and look at it and maybe delete it if you've already manually entered all of those items. If you're not using Pangea, you'll want to ask your warehouse if they automatically generate tags for new items. That are they going to put that in your truck mail so that you'll have it? But again, there's a delay there. But even so, if you get a new item and enter it manually into your system and then the tag doesn't come for a week, that just means that the item may sit on your shelf for a week with no price tag, which basically means that people are a lot less likely to pick it up off your shelf. So again, not the end of the world, especially if it's a very shelf-stable item. It's allowed to sit there for way longer than a week, so not the biggest deal in the grand scheme of things. But again, good to know if they're going to do that, or do you want to have a process where you make even a temporary price tag internally in the store that at least has the basics of like the item name and its price, so that that can serve in place of at least letting the customer know what the price is until next week when we get the full tag, which we will want to put up because it has the order barcode, so that we can just beep that tag and order more of that item in the future. The next batch are manager specials. So chances are you won't batch these the same as the batches that come from the warehouse. You can just put each individual item that you're wanting to run a sale on, put it on sale at the item level. So it'd be more manual to set up rather than deploying a whole batch all at once. But the tags you would need to work out, you know, are you handwriting manager special tags? Are you creating a template in Pangea that you can use? What is your method for displaying those manager specials inside your store? I already touched on the tag batch for the discontinued items and how that's a page of red tags that we don't print. We read them and see if we need to go ahead and scope out replacement items. If it's like one of our best sellers that is being discontinued, we will want to be very proactive in terms of having a replacement side by side with the discontinued item, hopefully before the item is gone, just so that that one's already there as an alternative. So you don't want to be caught off guard by the discontinuations, but you also don't really need to print those. So that's just that many more pages of stock and that much more time to hang them up, and it's just really not necessary. So, you know, be sure to scope out these processes and see what is truly critical for your store to be doing and what seems like we're just doing things to tick boxes and this actually doesn't get us anywhere that we need to be. And next we will move on to the ad flyer section. So this section I'm talking about the weekly ad flyer program that you will opt into, pay your way into within your warehouse. So they have their own internal advertising department that creates these ad flyers and the different ad groups. So each ad flyer is different. So this may be, for example, we started with a 2-page flyer. It was one single sheet and it had a front and a back, and that's it. And the reason you would want to start like that was not knowing the process at all. We didn't have grocery background at all. So this entire life cycle of POS batches and deploying changes and hanging up tags and Pangea and printing your own, and mind blown, right? Like it's just a lot to take in if you have everything else going on and no experience to like put it into context. So we started with a smaller ad flyer just so that we could get our feet wet and understand the process. We did that for a couple months, and then we bumped up to a 4-page with Outgates. And that obviously runs more products on sale. Now there's more sales in your store, there's more sale tags hanging up. So that means that's that much more time to take down the tags, to put up the tags, to sort the tags. All of that is kind of linear. It all goes up along with picking one of those bigger ad flyers. The other thing to consider is your warehouse can kind of guide you to, based on your unique product set and the size of your store and all of that, which of these ad flyers is going to be the best for you. Because if you're a small store with only 6,000 to 10,000 items, those ad flyers, they run a couple thousand items themselves. So how many of these products do you realistically have inside your store? Like, yes, okay, maybe they have an 8-page ad flyer, and that's great because that's going to be the most sale tags, but it's also going to be the most frustrating to your customers if you only have 20% of those items. So they have this huge sale flyer to pick from, and they're scoping it out, and they're like, oh, that looks great, and that looks great, and that looks great. They make their list. They come in, they got 8 sale items. You don't have any of them. That's a scenario that can happen, even if you have half of the products. So being able to explain to your customers why you're putting out a sale flyer with your store's name on it and you don't carry half the items, that's a confusing thing for your customers to wrap their minds around at first. And training your employees on how to have that conversation with customers is crucial. It goes a little bit like this, where a customer comes in and wants one of the sale items that you don't carry and is, confused about, what do you mean you don't carry it? It's in your sale flyer. It says that you put it on sale. You don't carry it. Like, I don't understand. Like, you're sending me mixed signals here. So our warehouse makes that flyer, and lots of stores use it. And we carry what we carry and we run the sales we can. However, if there's, lots of people interested in one of these particular sale items that we don't carry yet, we are super flexible. So when you're setting up your ad flyer with your warehouse, there will be several different decisions that they offer you, different options of how your flyer can work and look and all of that. One such option is often black and white or color. And there will be different parts of the flyer that will show up in black and white versus color. It may or may not be the entire thing. It may just be certain pieces. So always dig into options like that. Don't assume that you understand how they work. And I'm, again, speaking from personal experience, where okay, yes, I do want this part to be in color, and that gives me this option, and I like that, and so that's why we're picking this. And then, forgetting that those were the reasons, and then you stop using this feature, and that means that you really don't need this extra fancy option. So at that point, just be aware of the cost of all of these different options that they're presenting you. They may or may not be telling you that, this one is $115 a week and this one is $20 a week. So, ask. It's on you as the purchaser of the ad group to be diligent and ask the questions, and exactly which pieces apply in every single option and the cost of every single option, and reviewing in detail the final bill of what your weekly expenses are going to be and what each of those costs covers and all of that. And to do yourself a favor and document as much of those decision points as you possibly can, just because, like I said, a year goes by, 2 years goes by, and you kind of forget that that's why this made sense, was because you were doing X, Y, Z, and if you stop doing X and Y, I also need to go back and downsize my ad options. So help yourself in the beginning. That's my advice. Save yourself some money probably in that process. So the various types of sales that are used to create that ad flyer, this is what the ad planner spreadsheet is going to show you. And depending on your particular warehouse, their spreadsheet may be called something slightly different, but it's basically the list of all of the different promotions that are included in this ad flyer, and every single item on the ad flyer could be situated slightly differently as far as how does it make sense to run this at the price that they're printing on the ad flyer. There's a whole lot of reasons on why it could be. The first and the easiest is an off invoice discount, and this is similar to the TPRs. Like when you buy this item from the warehouse, you're getting it at a discounted price no matter what. So you're passing that sale on. And a lot of times you'll even see that maybe a product is on TPR for $1 off a case, and so an item has a TPR tag hanging on it. When you go to put up sale tags and you see that the TPR price is maybe $3.49 and now here's a sale tag for $2.99. So this week, maybe there is the off invoice discount plus one of these other options. So it can get real complicated real quick. And that's where, again, for a beginner, running these sales, it looks so alluring because sale items sell. So of course you want to put the tags up, but if you don't understand the back end of how it makes sense that you're running this price, then you may or may not be doing all of the different hoops that you need to jump through to get your cost under the sale price. Otherwise, basically, you would be losing money by running that product on sale, and we don't want that ever. So the next type, and this is one where you need to understand if this is how it works, because this again is that data feed piece working, scans. So scan literally means that every time you scan one of this sale item, you will get a certain amount of money racked up in this pile over here. And then the process with our warehouse is like 3 weeks later, your pile from that entire sales cycle, that entire week, any of the scan money that got collected during that week, all of it's here in a pile. It becomes a credit onto your statement 3 weeks later. So let's say Kraft mayonnaise. This is one of the scan items that we're familiar with at my store, where you buy in a case of Kraft mayonnaise and it's a slightly reduced price. So you get this much of an off invoice discount, and that creates some of the capacity to run the sale. It's bringing your cost down a little bit. Still not below the sale price though. To get under the sale price in your cost per unit, that's where the scan money comes in. So for every jar of mayonnaise that you sell while it's on sale, you're going to get maybe $2 per jar in your scan pile. And then 3 weeks later, that's a credit on your invoice. So in the long run, it comes back around to kind of situate your cost. But for example, if you're going to run the ad flyer and not have that piece of the data feed where you're able to report sales back to your warehouse so they can even see when did you sell this item and how many times and at what, on and on and on, they have to be able to have that sales data to credit you with that scan money. And if you don't have that piece, then you're losing money on every single scan sale that you run. So another option is Outgates, and these are the little flappy things that open off the page. So you open it and you have like each of the sides, and then maybe there's like another little flap that can open. So that's the Outgate. And those do cost more to add onto your printing. So you can opt out of those overall, I believe, to where you just say, I don't ever want the Outgates. And that just means that those sales aren't on your flyer. They'll still be in your tags. If you carry those items, you'll still have the tag to hang up. So people shopping inside the store, they'll still get to see that sale tag and take advantage of the sale price. It just wouldn't be on your flyer. The alternative is to ditch the tags and the sale and the Outgates and disregard all of it altogether. And one such example is if they're running some kind of a fancier sale through the Outgates. Like a good example is like running a 10 for $10 sale where it's a whole lot of different products. And if you do buy 10 of them, then you get the 10 for $10 price. Like, you do have to buy all of them, and it's a mix and match, and it knows to use this entire list. And if you buy any combination 10 units, then you get this discount. So that isn't coming through your weekly data feed ad flyer batch. That kind of stuff is not in there. That is a very basic price per unit sale. That's all that's coming through that data feed. So if there's something like that on the Outgates, you have to be able to build that in your POS yourself. You need to know how to create that kind of a coupon. And if you don't, then remove the Outgates, don't hang the tags, and it's just not going to deploy. It just won't be part of your sale that week. So I wanted to put this example in here somewhere where there are products like produce mostly that the UPC changes a lot because you may get a different brand of strawberries every time you order. There's a bunch of them. So let's say your sale starts on Wednesday and you have some strawberries on your shelf. So you look at this UPC and you put it on sale. Great, it's 2 for $5. These strawberries are on sale. Now tomorrow you have a new truck comes and it has a different brand of strawberries. And those strawberries are not even in your system at all, let alone on sale. So like that means like manually adding them to your system, making sure that they show on sale for 2 for $5. Otherwise, they'll go through the register either item not found or at full price. So keeping an eye on mostly your berries. Berries are the biggest offender, I would say. There may be a couple other scenarios in produce, but berries are the main one. Grapes are another one where they mostly rotate between a few PLU codes, but there are different ones for red grapes and green grapes. There's a few different for each color. So just keep an eye on the new produce you get on Thursday and then again on Monday. Because again, it could be a whole nother round of strawberries that is not on sale either. So now we got to put those on sale. So having some kind of proactive process in place around your truck and unpacking your inventory is really helpful versus forcing that onto the cashier for, them to have to explain to a customer who's saying, hey, there's a sale tag over there that says 2 for $5 and those are scanning at $2.99. That's not right. And now the cashier has to stop and check and go see and verify and fix it and follow up with a manager and get them to fix it in the system. And that's a lot, especially when your cashier is supposed to be at the register selling groceries to customers. If you remember back to Module 8, the operations module, we talked about a task for POS updates for product changes, and this is the general idea. This task would cover catching if an item isn't in your system at all yet, or if this item is coming in as a sale item and needs to be added as an on sale item as well in the system. So next we'll talk about shopping pre-books, web blasts, web sales, there are email sales that can come through sometimes. All of these different promotional sales that again are you as the store getting your cost in line so that when you run it on sale, you're actually making money instead of losing money. Some of those opportunities come through things like this, like a lot of the bacon sales that get run through the warehouse, you buy that bacon on Web Blast a month, 2 months in advance, and you've placed your order and it's gonna come in a month or 2 months, and that'll be when the sale is, and you will have bought it at $2.49 and it's running on sale at $2.99. And if you were to wait and buy that bacon while it's on sale for $2.99, you're buying it in at $3.49, and now it's like impossible. Don't run that on sale. Like, just take that sale tag down, take that out of your system, run it at full price at that point, because you're losing money every single pack of bacon that leaves the store. So you do have to buy the web blasts in some cases in order for those future sales to make sense. Once you've shopped those sales, that generates what's called in our warehouse a rolling stock status report. And this may be called something different in your warehouse, but I'm guessing they have something similar, because the idea is week to week to week, you get to see here are the pre-booked items that are coming. So for example, a lot of meat gets pre-booked for the sales that are happening. So let's say clods were one of the pre-books available. You could get 20 cents off a pound, and here it is, and this will show up 6 to 10 weeks from now. And so you totally forgot that you placed that order, and now on the rolling stock we check it every single time before we place the order, because oh look, those clods I ordered 6 weeks ago, they're coming tomorrow, so I'm not going to order any clods. I'm going to let the pre-booked clods come, and now I don't have twice as many clods as I need, because that can definitely happen. You order it because you're not thinking I order clods every time. Well, not this time, because I already ordered them 6 weeks ago. On our gun, it will show you if you're paying attention, which again is like a whole thing that, you know, don't knock it till you've been there. But when you beep an item, you try to program it into the gun, a lot of times it will show you if you have cases that are already coming. It'll also show you what you ordered last time. It also shows you like if there's a discount on this item. So like it beeps for all those different reasons, so you can get so used to some items beep when you click them that you're just going, doing your order, and not even notice that it beeped because you already have that item pre-booked. So checking the rolling stock status report and getting those items in your head before you do your order can help you stay off that autopilot mode where you accidentally order double of something. So the POS process for the ad flyer batch that will come in, weekly sale, whatever it's called in your system, I would say this batch is easiest to do this process in between days, meaning if your sale starts Wednesday morning when you open, then either Tuesday night after close, you take down the tags and hang the new ones, or maybe that closing manager takes down all the sale tags, and then Wednesday morning you hang all the new ones, deploy the batch, add in any of the manual sale items, all of that in between business hours, because you're dealing with a lot of tags. You have a lot of tags to hang up. So no matter if you deploy the batch before or after, there's just so much time spent to hang all of the tags that better to just have all of that changed out before you unlock for business that day. So next we'll cover the tag process, the time required, and some couple options that you have as far as how you actually go about doing this. So first things first, if there's time required to sort the tags no matter which way you go. So like we said, the ad flyer is going to run a couple thousand products on sale, and you maybe have 20 to 50% of them. So hopefully more than that, but even so, there will be some percentage of tags that need to be taken out of the pile before it's time to hang them. Otherwise, you're basically trying to hang a bunch of tags for products that you don't even have. So separating that sorting process out of the hanging process is number one, that it makes a whole lot of sense to do it that way. And then so like either you're going to be printing your own sale tags, and through that Pangea interface that we talked about, you can open the set of sale tags and click on and off the ones that you do or don't want to print, or your warehouse is going to have a full set printed for you and FedEx them to you. So at that point, you receive a whole stack of tags. Again, about half of them, give or take, aren't needed. So how are you getting the not needed tags out of the needed tags? That process of separating those two piles is what the rest of this section is about. So the process to sort the tags, as I see it, there are two main options, and the difference is who is going to be doing this process. So if you have a high-level manager do this task compared to if you have a part-time minimum wage employee do this task, there's two ways. And one of them obviously is this long, and one of them on the sheet is this long. So it may look like having the minimum wage employee do it is the more complicated option. Once you learn how to do it, I promise it's not even close to as complicated as it looks. And having a high-level manager do it, that is often your busiest and most expensive labor. So trying to put one more thing onto that person's plate may or may not make sense compared to maybe that person can do 15 minutes of a task once a week and then empower a high school level employee to do their part. So as we get going on the base level employee option, obviously we want to do this option because that's usually our cheapest labor. So the number of hours that they're going to spend, basically it's the same, like a couple hours to sort through Pangea, a couple, 2, 3, 4 hours to sort the tags through this second process. So you're spending about the same amount of time. It's just what is the value of that time. And so I would ask your warehouse, what is the difference in cost? What does it cost to have a whole set of tags sent to me? What does it cost for me to print them myself? If I'm taking out all the ones that I don't need and only printing the ones that I do need, that's worthwhile, I think, to check the math and see, based on those printing costs plus the time spent cost of either a manager or a part-time employee, you have the total cost of either option. And at that point, you can decide whichever one makes sense for you. So if you're going to have a base level employee do it, then basically you're going to run a V-Lookup. And a V-Lookup, very simply, is an Excel function that looks at list A and says, look at this value in list A and see if this value is on list B. So list A, list B, they're going to check from all of the values on list A, is it on list B, and then tell me, is it there or not? So that's what a VLOOKUP can do. So for the rest of the VLOOKUP discussion, I'm actually going to switch to a live demo since I think that's going to be easier to understand. So first we have list B, and this you'll pull a few times a year, and your goal with this list is to make it as identical to your shelves as possible. So when the person who goes to hang up the tags is basically guaranteed that that product is on the shelf. So this list is going to help you sort out the tags that are for items that you do not currently carry. I would suggest to get this list to use some sort of movement report for your product set to hopefully help weed out any items that might be in your POS back office, but you don't currently carry them. Either you carried them a long time ago, or maybe you set them up proactively and never had them in the store. You don't want those items showing on this list. And then list A is the weekly list that your warehouse will send you for all of the different items that will be on sale. And the goal with this is to find these UPC numbers that are on here for all of the different items that will go on sale, and then cross-reference if those items are part of list B. AKA, should I keep the tag for this item so I can hang it up? Or is this a product that we don't have in the store so I can put this tag in the discard pile? Before we get to the VLOOKUP section, I do want to point out that when you run the VLOOKUP, when you're searching for the UPC on list A here on list B, it's always going to search in the A column. So if the A column is unsearchable, then it's not going to find anything for any of your values. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of working with my list B here before I'm ready to do the VLOOKUP, because when I hover over these UPCs, they're actually hyperlinks back to somewhere, and that's not searchable as plain text. So in this case, there's actually a super easy option for getting those hyperlinks off there if you just click onto the column and then click to remove hyperlinks. That will automatically turn it all back into just numbers so that we can now search and compare number to number to see if the ad product from list A does exist on list B. So now we're ready to do our VLOOKUP back on list A. So we will enter =, VLOOKUP, and open parentheses, gives us the formula for lookup value, table array, column index number, and range lookup. So lookup value is the UPC that we want to search for. So that would be this column. And then the table array, I've put my comma on there, and now the table array is list B. So this is where am I looking for that value, and I want to look on the entire list B. So I'm going to select the entire list by clicking on this box in the top left-hand corner that selects all rows and all columns. And now you can see it's filling in our formula up here in the bar at the top. And when I hit F4, it's going to pop on the dollar signs around the columns and rows that I've selected, meaning as I drag the formula down later to populate my entire list A, it's going to keep my selection on the entire list B. So here I will add another comma, and now for column index number, I want to return the name of the item if we have it. So that's basically what column index number is. If it finds a match, what data do you want it to show you? And really any of these columns, the first column, the second column, or the third column would be fine. To return the third column though, that is the third column, so I would want to enter a 3. And then I'm going to have another comma, and now range lookup is asking if you want to allow for approximate matches or exact matches. And approximate match might be a good thing if you're using words and you want it to be insensitive to case, like if I have the word fruit capitalized and it's not capitalized on the other sheet, still find this as a match. Maybe that's an approximate match situation. Here where we're using numbers, I would say there's never a reason that you would need to use an approximate match, so you will just always put false to force it to find an exact match or nothing. And so now I click enter, and it has returned the name of the item, so that means that we do carry that item in our store. So now when you find this little box in the bottom right hand corner of that cell and hover over it, it turns your cursor into a plus sign, meaning you can click onto that box and drag that same formula down. And so it's not the exact same, it does shift with you. So you've dragged it down a row and now it's searching for E10. In the 11th row, it's searching for E11. It's automatically making these updates for you on this selection because we did not put dollar signs around it. Notice this selection stays the same. That's what it means to lock the selection, while this one is scooting every time we drag it down a row. The other one is not. So for this, we can take this and, I believe, double click that box. Let me do that again. So you can drag it down by clicking and dragging one row at a time, or you can double click that box and it will fill it as far as it can until it hits an empty row, or what would basically end up being the bottom of your spreadsheet. It automatically knows to stop because the data has stopped. So now you can see that there are returning a couple of different values. Like we'll look at this one right here. These are items that we have in the store, and this is an item that we do not have in the store. So we know that the tag for the yellow frosted cookie can be put in the discard pile, while we do need to keep the pink and white frosted cookie tags because we do carry those in the store. So that is the main goal of getting this VLOOKUP complete. So at this point, once you have all this column filled in with NA or the product name, you're ready to save this document, email it to your high school student to perform the search and sort the tags into keepers and discards. So from here, let's say now I am the high school student and I have a stack of 1,000 sale tags, and I am taking the first one and I do Control F on my keyboard, opens the Find tab here, where now I can type in a UPC. So I'm going to type in 70897191679 and hit enter. And it found it right here. And if you scroll across, you would see that that is an NA, and that means put that tag in the discard pile. As opposed to, let's say, I've typed in this UPC, and that found it here, which if you scroll across has the item's name, so I would put that tag in the keeper pile. And lastly, the other option that can sometimes happen is this. So you search for a UPC because you have the tag, you enter the UPC, and it gives you this message. This is very rare, but basically it just means that the tag is not on the spreadsheet. The sale item that they sent you a tag for did not get put on the spreadsheet. And that is a rare instance and basically means the warehouse let one slip through the cracks. And that happens sometimes, but most of the time that is for a newer item that maybe got added at the last minute. So the chances of you carrying it are actually pretty rare. I usually have the person make a third pile for any that happen in this scenario where the manager can review those further and most likely discard them. And from there, they just repeat until there are no more unsorted tags. And like I said, depending on how many tags there are is how many hours it's going to take. The bigger sale flyers, like sometimes they'll run a 2-week sale over Thanksgiving or a big sale flyer for the couple weeks of Christmas, and maybe they have twice as many sale tags as what they normally have. So it can fluctuate week to week, but we typically just schedule a dedicated person whose job it is to come in and do those tags, and then maybe they run back stock when they're finished with the tags. So it's a dedicated task that someone is scheduled in order to come and complete. And then the tags are ready to go for first thing in the morning on the first day of the sale when your other associate is ready to hang them up. And last, we'll wrap up with touching on outdated products. So I did talk a little bit about this in the operations module. If you've seen that, I give you a guide back to the template that's from that module for the process for outdated items. So this will be a repeat if you've already touched on it there, but just in case you missed that one, I did want to put it on here as well. Because if you pay to bring an item into the store, it is on you to try to sell it until it's no longer sellable. And I would say sellable is a very subjective term that is basically decided by the customer. If they're willing to buy it, then it is sellable. And so much of that has to do with the price. So it's definitely not good form to leave expired items sitting in their normal home past their date and still marked at full price. That's not cool. But if you take that product, discount its price, move it to a dedicated section in your dry set, either like a dump cart out in the middle of the aisle or maybe a shelf that's off to the side, a refrigerated section and a freezer section where people know clearly that this is what this is. These are past dated items that have been reduced, and if you want it, you can have it. The way you do these markdowns depends on how perishable the item is. So let's say it's a dairy item that is pretty perishable. Yogurt only lasts for so long, cottage cheese, milk, etc. Maybe not quite as perishable as some produce items or something like that, like a bag of salad might have a really short shelf life. But as you take that item and put it in the discount section, it only had a 2-month life to begin with. So maybe you mark it down and leave it there for a few extra weeks, compared to like a can of SpaghettiOs had a 2-year lifespan to start with. So maybe you mark that down just a little bit and leave it in the markdown section for like a year before you're willing to take it and throw it away. So again, I think it all depends on how deep of a discount you're willing to put on it. And at the end of the day, putting a really nice discount on something and letting it sell to somebody who can find value in it is always better than just throwing it in the dumpster and not recuperating any of the cost you put into that item. So that brings us to the end of another of these modules. Thank you so much for listening, and a special thank you to the North Central Regional Planning Commission for partnering with me on these videos and making them possible. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is below. And otherwise, you take such good care of yourselves, and thank you so much for listening.